What's up, everyone? Shakiel Mahjouri here for CBS Sports, and you know who this is. He is the reigning, defending, undisputed AEW World Champion, defending that title against Bryan Danielson in the main event of AEW All In London on Sunday. I've already signed over the lease because this is no longer my house. It's whose house? Swerve's house. Swerve Strickland. How's it going, my man?
I'm doing great, man. Appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for doing this. This is appropriate that we're in the car right now because I just wanted to ask this off the top. I am curious. Everyone is obsessed with Prince Nana's swerve dance, but how would you actually rate his driving skills on a scale of 1 to 10?
He's a New Yorker, so he doesn't drive. So I find that funny and ironic. So he probably does swerve it when he drives if he hasn't driven a car in like 20 years, probably.
Fair enough. All those road stories, we're not getting out of Prince Nana. I always put out a fan Q&A, and you know, the relationship, the association between you and Prince Nana feels like it's formed so organically, and you guys are a very nice sort of like contrast to one another. I think the most requested thing that the fans wanted to know is who actually made the decision to pair your two factions at first, and when did you guys notice that there was really something there between you and Nana specifically?
It was Tony Khan said he wanted to do the merger. He came up with that idea because both my guys originally were hurt, and so they weren't going to be at TV for a while. But Tony still wanted to keep me in the faction realm of things, and he wanted to bring up guys from Ring of Honor and get Nana on TV. So they just came up with a merger idea. Um, Me and Nana have known each other for about like almost 10 years on the independents, but we didn't really like work with each other. He was always on Ring of Honor, and I was doing Evolve and Lucha Underground and all the international indies and stuff. So we've never really like crossed paths like that work wise, but we've been on shows together. We've always been cool. Um, we always had a mutual respect for one another. I know this stuff since he was like, wrestling in 2001 Ring of Honor against Bryan Danielson, Low Key, and these guys. So had a good rapport of what he was doing for 10 years, 20 years of tape. Um, he was familiar with my growth on the indies and then getting to television, and he always had a good respect for me. So honestly, it was just like I always like try to clown around and joke around with each other, and that's kind of where the camaraderie and the trust grew with each other. And then it just became like, all right, we're having a good time and we're just enjoying each other's presence on camera rather than trying to be super serious all the time. And like we have our moments where we do, but I don't tell him exactly how I want him to be. I don't tell him exactly how I want him to react. We have suggestions back and forth, but it's just like be you and react naturally, and I will do the same. I don't know half the time the faces or the reactions he's making behind me on a lot of the promos. I'll look back and see what he did, and I'm like, that's funny. And I couldn't tell him to do that. I just have to like let Nana be Nana, and the fans are like really enjoying it. It's not too much, but it's also like just like, oh, we're always watching out for something.
It's kind of nice seeing both of you guys get your flowers kind of simultaneously. I'm glad it's happening. We're heading towards All In. I am curious, you're still, I think, young in your career, but you've been at this for a while. How validating is it going to feel when you make your way onto that entrance ramp, 40, 50, however many tens of thousands of people, AEW world title around your shoulder in the main event? Like, how's
It's
that going to feel?
it's validating from all like I said, I've progressed so much more in my career from failure. That's where I truly made a mark and really was challenged. And that's where a lot of people seen how truly committed I was and determined I was to do more, progress, get to this opportunity, get to this position that I'm in. And I feel like I feel like I legitimately earned the respect of the fan base from that. It's like it got to a point where it's like we truly want to see him in this position, and we hope to see him in this position. Now it's here. Just like fans feel like they were rewarded for riding and really being committed to the product, committed to my whole story arc as Swerve Strickland, and they're truly they feel like they've earned it along with me. Like I feel like at Dynasty, it felt like they were just anticipating it. They got great action all throughout the night, legendary, historic matches. But they feel like they were there to witness this being made. You know, so bringing it to Wembley and truly going on another, you know, milestone benchmark in my career for All Elite Wrestling history for Bryan Danielson. Possibly the last time they'll ever see him compete in a ring ever again. Like they're riding with me again.
Are you gonna? I know TK. I appreciate TK's just like depth of pro wrestling knowledge and callbacks. Are we ever gonna reward the fans with "Ain't Nobody" again as an entrance as a walkout song? Because I know the fans want it.
Possibility. It's a possibility. We don't know. Like timing is everything. The potential's there. Like, and it's funny enough, Tony is actually really aware of that too. He's aware of that song. He knows.
Shout out Shaka Khan. You mentioned learning more from failures, and that's something I'm a big proponent of. At what point in your career would you say you were feeling the lowest, and what were you able to sort of source out of that and turn into something that pushed you forward?
Definitely earlier on. Feeling lowest was like probably right before Lucha Underground came around. It was like, oh man, like it's either I continue on this independence or like I just got to go to Japan for a year, find a way to do that, which I still didn't have like a real connection or any type of like link to get to that, to do that, or it's like I'm gonna have to just go full time active duty in the military. It was like that turning point, and then like Lucha Underground came in as an opportunity. It wasn't even like just a contract; it was more of like a tryout for Lucha Underground in dark matches that they didn't even know yet. So that was probably the most turning point because it was like 2 kids. Employment wasn't really working out as much. Check to check, like little cash here and there on the independence, but that was like probably the lowest point. You didn't have a car. It was like definitely borrowing cars or getting on the train to get to Philadelphia for CZW events or like jumping in carpools and rides and things like that. There's just a lot going on, and try to maintain a successful wrestling career and a job of consistent employment, almost impossible. Probably harder nowadays than it was 10 years ago. So that's definitely like my turning point though.
Man, amazing to see the journey we've gone. I'm going to pivot here because I don't think we'll get to this in depth, but I need to ask. If Kendrick Lamar versus Drake were a pro wrestling match, what would it be? Is it the instant classic that you and Bryan Danielson are going to have, or is it Goldberg squashing Brock Lesnar in a matter of seconds? Or something else?
They're like, if I had to compare it in a wrestling sense, it'd be like, I think that would be like Kenny and Will Ospreay type feel. Like if you had to put those guys of that generation, it's crazy for me. Like, but I feel like the difference is just the difference of philosophies and what success is. That's why I saw what Kendrick and Drake was, and I feel like that's the same way of like a Kenny and maybe not as much Will, but maybe more of like a Kenny and Bryan Danielson. There are two different types of philosophies of what pro wrestling truly is of this generation. You know.
One thing I have this whole series of interviews that I've had on the back burner that I really want to do at some point, which would be interviewing rappers and hip hop artists about the connection between hip hop and pro wrestling or hip hop and boxing. It runs so deep, and I've always been really fascinated about it because as a lifelong pro wrestling fan, it's changing again now, but there are times where pro wrestling is perceived as like corny or fake or not real, and yet you have something like hip hop, which for a long time hip hop music and Black American culture is the foundation of what's cool in North America, and I love how much hip hop rides for pro wrestling. I mean, we just had the Trill mix of your theme song with Bun B and West Side Gun. I was just listening to JPEG Mafia's new album, and there's always a little sample of Adam Copeland's intros sprinkled into his songs. Since you dive into both worlds, tell me, why is it that hip hop and pro wrestling have such like a tight knit connection?
Everything's amplified. It's taking real aspects of the world and putting it on like a television show and putting it on display and an artistic, athletic form. It's almost like that connection of how like a lot of basketball players want to be, or football players want to be artists, and artists want to be football players or basketball players. I feel like the same ways in wrestling with music. Like a lot of guys built their. A lot of I've heard from artists, a lot of artists that they drew a lot of influence on their personas on music from pro wrestling. You know,
Mm.
um, like it's just the pageantry around pro wrestling and the connection with the fan base is what truly drives the art, the art of pro, like the artist into loving pro wrestling and being so influenced by it. Like big clothes, big colors, big bodies, big energy, big entrances. Like if a lot of ways, I like to try to turn my entrances into rap concerts in a sense, like Jim
Mm.
Jones walking me out. You know,
Yeah.
um, like it's like the Nana and the dancers, things like that. I try to make music videos or performances out of my entrances, and I feel like that's where like the we're a lot closer in similarities than people would think. But what I really truly believe is like it's the way like MCs move a crowd. It's the same way wrestlers and
I
promos
like
move a
that.
crowd.
Will Ospreay once said something similar about how pro wrestling is like a concert, except he doesn't go to any concerts. So when I asked him to elaborate, he's like, I have no idea what I'm talking about.
He
So I'm
hasn't
glad
gone.
you could give a
He
little more
hasn't. He hasn't
context.
gone with somebody who knows like their way around a concert. Like I
Yeah.
performed at Rolling Loud. I've been around festivals for the last several years. He needs to go with me. I need to show him
Yeah.
around.
Okay. I like this. I like this. We bury the hatchet. We'd make this happen. I gotta let you go, but on the note of Will Ospreay, I'll leave this as the last one because ever since you guys started feuding, people have been sharing that classic video of you guys in WXW, Bruno Mars, Uptown Funk. What are your memories of that? Is it something you sort of like look back on fondly? How do you feel when people are like, do you giggle when people are like, you guys should do that again in AEW? It's a must do.
That I look back. That was one of those low times for me on the
Really?
personal. Yeah, but like those are one of those shining moments in like bad times on
Mm.
on like the personal level. Like on the personal life, it's like, oh man, like things weren't going as good, but I have moments like that to bring the light out of those dark times for me. And that's one of those moments I was like, yeah, I love this kid. He was like several years younger than me, and that's where I was like, man, this dude's so cocky and arrogant and annoying, but like he's one of us, because like, and that's where I knew Will had soul. That was one of the few moments I knew like he had soul. We've hung out a bunch of times after shows and stuff when I would go take the UK trips, and he would break it down a little bit on the dance floor. But like that's when I knew like, all right, this dude has soul.
Dang. Well, from the lowest to lows to the highest to highs, AEW All In London, from dancing in the ring to world title matches. Swerve, I want to let you have the last words. If there's anything you want to tell the people ahead of Swerve Strickland versus Bryan Danielson, AEW All In Wembley, the floor is yours, my man.
Historic moment, historic main event. Second time in Wembley Stadium. Last year I was putting a coffin. This year I'm putting somebody's career to rest. So, AEW World Champion, first black world champion in main event Wembley Stadium in the history of wrestling. Regardless of company or brand name, I'm just happy that I'm doing it here with All Elite Wrestling. It means the world to me. It's going to mean the world to Bryan Danielson as well. He wouldn't be put in this ring with just anybody. I'm there for a reason. Two guys from the state of Washington representing for the Pacific Northwest, putting on for the World Championship for All Elite Wrestling. Go out there, go download the new Big Trill remix for Big Pressure. The new album out now, Motion Sickness, Me and Flash Garments. The remix is on there featuring Bun B and West Side Gun. The entire album is hosted by the legendary DJ Who Kid, who, if you look on his Spotify, last whole album that he hosted was with 50 Cent. So that means a lot. So go check that out, run it up. It's crazy. We're making history out here. Let's see what else what other kind of history I make at Wembley Stadium and All In.